Right as we are nearing the NBA postseason, the Memphis Grizzlies have fired their head coach and Taylor Jenkins. And this is a move that, in a vacuum, the move itself was not that surprising. However, the timing of it seems very, very strange. This is a team that is going to make the playoffs, and now they are going to have an interim head coach, and that guy's going to have to try to implement his ideas as well as not be too big a deviation from Jenkins, because you don't have time to just build something from the ground up at this point. And this firing has really led to a lot of question marks, and the biggest one that we're going to get into today: what is going on with the Memphis Grizzlies? Welcome back to State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts, and today we're looking to dig into that question. Now, to begin, this firing was in itself not too surprising. After an injury-riddled season last year, where the Grizzlies failed to even reach 30 wins, the Grizzlies front office, they swapped out 5 members of the coaching staff for this team. And so what that really signifies is that they don't necessarily trust in the vision that this head coach has for the team. Because you think about the coaching tree here, the head coach is, of course, the head of it all. And very often they have guys that they develop time with, and they learn to like and develop schemes alongside them, and have guys that they really trust in. And so when a mass move is made like this, that really can kind of set the tone for the head coach that there needs to be results. And even if there are, they don't necessarily always trust in your coaching philosophy and the people that you were surrounding yourselves with. And so with that move, the writing was already kind of on the wall for Taylor Jenkins. Now, he of course consulted with the front office about these moves, however, it did kind of set an uneasy tone, and it felt like the writing was on the wall. It was only a matter of time until Taylor Jenkins was going to be out of Memphis. And now he's gone, and this season the Grizzlies have kind of redefined their offense. They set fewer screens than any other NBA team, and with that, it is more motion-focused offense in terms of off-ball movement, and that really became their bread and butter this season. And for Ja Morant, he's only played 44 games this season, but he was not necessarily a big fan of this change. One of the assistant coaches he had developed a quite good bond with. And this new offense, he had been so used to playing in more so pick and roll offense, and wasn't a major fan of the new scheme. That kind of took the ball out of his hands more and got rid of some of the screens that he used as a ball handler. However, over time, Jenkins kind of began to reinstall some of these plays that Morant really liked, that benefited his play style in the way he wanted to play the game. However, what this signifies is that there was definitely a disconnect between head coach Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies front office, and that's, of course, what ultimately would lead to this firing. So I want to do my best here on State of the Association to kind of try to contextualize that. Ryan Wintour speaks of storytelling as a lost art in sports media, particularly NBA media. So I kind of try to bring that back and create something that can be compelling for a lot of audiences, whether it is the casuals who want a good story, or even more hardcore people who want to delve into nuances. I may do it in a different way than the stats. However, that is what we try to do here over on State of the Association. And so with that, let's delve deep into what's going on with the Memphis Grizzlies and the disconnect between Taylor Jenkins and the Memphis Grizzlies front office. Now, from everything we have established so far, the ultimate firing of Taylor Jenkins was not all too surprising. Clearly, there was a bridge that had been built, separating, not connecting. No, it was a dangly bridge. It was one that was falling in. One that you didn't want to cross. That kind of bridge that was building between Jenkins and the front office. And when that happens, let's think about it from the head coaching perspective. You are brought into this team, and you are expected to do all that you can to maximize the talents of this roster and implement schemes to their benefit for the team. and you bring your guys along with you that you like, that you have built trust with to bring onto your coaching staff. And when a move is made by the front office that kind of strips that away, it sets the tone that maybe you are going to be taken out sooner rather than later. Think about it in a job setting, right? Let's say you were one of the people that is regularly closing the store, and all of a sudden, your closing buddies, they're out of there. They get fired, and you're the one left standing. Now there's questions beginning to be raised in your mind about if you're going to be fired too someday. And you had been closing with these people for years now. You had developed a bond with them. Maybe you guys didn't like work, right? But you could kind of connect over that. And now they're gone, and you've got new people that you have to train. And maybe your mindset's different than them. Maybe you do things a little bit different from them. And that's what the case was here. Jenkins had been used to a pick-and-roll scheme. And coming into this offense this season, things had been shaken up. These new assistant coaches had largely been behind this new motion-based offense. And it's something that Jenkins was far less familiar with. And it was a major adjustment for a team that had been heavily focused on the PNR for years. So now they've swapped out the people that are behind you, that are around you, and they've implemented changes in the workplace in terms of how you're supposed to do your job. And as an NBA head coach, sometimes you have to be stubborn. Sometimes you have to be set in your ways. You think of one of the best in the game right now, in Eric Spoelstra. He firmly believes in Miami Heat culture, and that talent is nothing in comparison to hard work. And for the large part, he has been able to maximize the talents of the players on his team as a result of that hard work and philosophy of the Miami Heat that he has instilled. So Jenkins, as one can imagine, might not have been very happy with these changes, and it was something new that he had to develop and come into. And life is all about striking a balance. And that's what he tried to do throughout the season. Because Ja Morant didn't love the offense. So he tried to implement more plays that Morant was used to from a prior system and scheme. And this is where the disconnects come in. And when you become disconnected with your front office, with your boss, all of a sudden that makes it harder to go to work. All of a sudden that makes it harder to do your job. Because now you're questioning if the front office is overthinking and watching everything that you're doing. And so you begin to second guess yourself and think, hey, is this scheme that I had been using for so long, was that the right way to go? Or is this new method going to be the most effective strategy? They had made it to the 2 seed just a couple years ago. And now you might question, hey, how much of this was on me, and how much of it was a result of the people around me, and how much does the front office value me in what I bring forth to the table? And when that happens, there can be a disconnect between the locker room, too, that can kind of bleed over. Your apathy with the front office, your frustrations with the front office that may have been building, the team can feel that, too. And it can go two ways. There can be a disconnect between the players and the coach, or they can side with the coach. And for a large part, their reactions to this move, they were really hurt by the decision to fire Taylor Jenkins. Triple J stated, "That's my dog." And he was the only Grizzlies player whose tenure predated the hiring of Taylor Jenkins. Beyond that, that's all these players had ever known. Ever since they had stepped foot in a Grizzlies jersey on that Memphis court, they had been playing under Jenkins. And so they were bought into what he was doing, but the front office was not. And in conclusion, as shocking as the move was, there had been a bridge falling apart between Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies front office, and the writing had been on the wall. Time will tell how this move will pan out, but the players were shocked, and the NBA world as a whole was shocked, and rightfully so. But in regards to what's going on with the Memphis Grizzlies, there is not a clear, distinct answer. But this move looked like it had been a long time coming, and for the front office, they were surely confident in their decision to move on. They likely feel as though these new assistant coaches that brought with them this new offensive scheme, they likely feel as though that is the future for this team and the foundation that Memphis will be built on. But in regards to the move itself, it could not have been more surprising in the manner in which it happened. And that is all for today's episode of State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts. Thank you very much for listening. I did not love this episode whatsoever, to be completely honest with you, man. I recorded this multiple times, about like 4 by this point. And even this final version, it's it's barely passable, right? But I hope there was something to take away from it. And that is all for today's episode of State of the Association. I promise it gets better than this. I had to put something out here. It's a situation I found very intriguing. I didn't love the manner in which it was covered, but I tried to delve deep into the story. And that's what we're about over here. Thank you very much for listening. This has been State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts.